Hello, world history. How are you doing? It's Mr. Walker. It's Thursday, and I'm making a quiz for you for Friday. And so I want to make a video to support you if you're having trouble understanding what's on the quiz. And this is about the historical thinking skill of continuity and change. We've looked at other thinking skills such as cause and effect. For example, in World War I, you were able to analyze the causes of the war, both long-term causes and short-term causes. And then we did the skill of comparison for totalitarianism, where you were comparing two different systems of fascism and communism. Here during World War II, we're going to talk about continuity and change. And the idea behind that is what stays the same and what changes. Okay? And so in this case, we'll be looking at the role of Soviet women during World War II. And the excerpt, the reading I gave you yesterday, is from a book that won the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is the PDF of it by Svetlana Alexievich, The Unwomanly Face of War, An Oral History of Women in World War II. And so we see that women in the Soviet Union, we'll see how they changed and how their role and expectations stayed the same. And so on the quiz I've given you, you're going to have to do a little bit of writing. So each week there's a multiple choice quiz in the first part of the week, and by the end of the week there's a writing part. And now we're going again deeper into the details of the war. And so we're looking at the big picture. And so we know that Hitler at first had a pact, a non-aggression pact with Stalin, but he breaks it and invades Russia. And then all of Russian society mobilizes to fight the Nazi invasion, including women. And so I'll just take you through the questions, and you can watch this and it'll help you answer them. So here's the quiz. Mini DBQ, the unwomanly face of war. And the first question right here is, what were 5 different occupations, jobs, that women had in the Soviet Union during World War II, according to the interviews in Svetlana Alexievich's The Unwomanly Face of War? So in this short answer, you just need to list 5 different jobs. And so you go through this, and as you go through, here's a job, nurse. And so you look at the names of the people. These are all different interviews that these people gave to the author, and she wrote it down. And this is a type of history book you can write, where you interview different people and put their information down. It's called an oral history. And so here, another person, an airplane mechanic. That's another job. Here's another job, a medical assistant. So you get the idea. Just write down 5 of these, all the way to private radio operator, tank man, laundress. Okay, so you write 5 different jobs for that first one. The next question, this is where we talk about continuity and change. Look at the different jobs of women in the text. What are 3 jobs that were traditionally women's jobs that represent a continuity of women's roles in society? And so for this, you have to ask yourself, which of these jobs are traditionally women's jobs that were expected of women, the roles that women had? And we know that it was a patriarchal society where women did not have the same rights or opportunities as men. And so take a look at these jobs that were limited to just women, traditional female jobs. And so as you look through here, what are traditional jobs? Well, I'm looking at this one, laundress. A woman doing the laundry, is that a traditional job for a woman? Hairdresser, is that a traditional job for a woman? Ask yourself that. Telegrapher, is that a traditional job for a woman? Machine gunner, is that a traditional job for a woman? An underground fighter, is that a traditional job for a woman? And so make that decision. I want you to find 3 different jobs that are traditional women's roles, okay? And then in the following question, after you find a continuity of traditional women's roles, the next one I want you to look at 3 jobs that are not traditional women's roles, okay? That represent a change in society. So in this question, you're looking at continuity during World War II of women's roles. Here you're looking at a change in society of how in Soviet society, how women's jobs are different. So as you look at the different types of jobs, notice we're not even reading the text. We're just looking at the sourcing. A sniper, is that a traditional woman's job? Searchlight operator. I want you to find 3 that you determine are laundress. Is that a traditional woman's job, or does that represent a change? So go through and decide. Radio operator. Which do you think? Remember, we're talking about the 1940s. In my grandparents' generation, your great-grandparents' generation, what represented traditional jobs and what are not traditional jobs that represent a change in women's role in society. Okay, this next part, I give you an excerpt of the text, okay, from a medical assistant, and I ask here, based on the text below, what similar technology problem did the Russians have in World War II that they had in World War I when fighting the German army? If you remember, in World War I, when the Russians fight the Germans, this is what I used to tell you. Why would this be an impersonation of a Russian going into battle, going boo, boo, boo? Because they weren't industrialized at the time of World War I, and literally troops were being sent into battle without weapons. And they were told, just pick up a fallen comrade's weapon, and they were charging into machine guns. And that was the state of World War I Russian fighters. And it's one of the reasons why the Russian Revolution happened, because the soldiers mutinied and they turned on their leadership, and the leader was the Tsar for not providing them with enough technology. They weren't industrialized. And so how is this similar to what we see here in Polina Semenovia Nozdracheva? Sorry, I don't know Russian and I just butcher it. So let's call her Polina, the medical assistant. And so read this and you'll decide what is similar to the Russian experience in World War I as in World War II. So what's a continuity between the Russian experience in World War I and World War II? Here she writes, the command, fall in. We lined up by height. I was the smallest. The commander comes, looks, walks up to me. What sort of Thumbelina is this? What are you going to do? Maybe you should go back to your mother and grow up a little. But I no longer had a mother. My mother had been killed during a bombing. The strongest impression for my whole life, it was during the first year when we were retreating. We were hiding in the bushes. I saw one of our soldiers rush at a German tank with his rifle and beat the armor with a rifle butt. He shouted and wept till he fell, till a German submachine gun shot him. During the first year, we fought with rifles against tanks and Messers. If you remember from our technology of the Battle of Britain, Messers, this is short for Messerschmitt, the German airplane. And the Russians, at least in the beginning of the war, fighting with tanks against tanks and with planes against planes? No, in this case, they're fighting with rifles against them. Later, the Russians are able to industrialize, or they have industrialized, and their factories get to work. The biggest tank battle of the entire war, and in history actually, is the Battle of Kursk, fought on the plains of or the steppes of Russia and the Ukraine against the Nazis, against the Russians, and the Russians win. But here in the beginning of the war, you see they're fighting with just rifles against tanks. So how do you answer this question? What technology problem did the Russians have in World War II that they also had in World War I? You'll answer that right here. Okay, and then finally, in the excerpt from Vasilisa Yuzhnina, what is a change in the expectation of Soviet women during the war that is a continuity, or that is a change, and then also you'll find a continuity. So in this answer, you're going to be finding what is a change in the expectations of women and what is a continuity, something that does not change. And so this one, oh man, where did I get it? This is it. So this is the excerpt that you're going to get. What is a change and what is a continuity? So first off, you're going to be analyzing this for finding what is a difference in women's roles, and then what is a continuity? What is something that continues in the expectation of women? And so just look at the job of the woman. Is this a change or a continuity? Were women hairdressers before? Or are suddenly women being made into hairdressers? Okay, that could be your change or continuity. And then this is from her text. My specialty is men's haircuts. A girl comes. I don't know how to cut her hair. She has luxuriant, wavy hair. The commander enters the dugout. Give her a man's haircut. But she's a woman. No, she's a soldier. She'll be a woman again after the war. All the same. As soon as the girl's hair grew a little, I'd curl it during the night. We'd have cones instead of curlers, dry pine cones. We could at least curl the forelock. And so what is a change and what's a difference? Well, what's a change here? Are women, women are what? What are women doing? Are they just are they just hairdressers? No, here there's a change in women's roles. What's the change in women's roles here? And the expectations of women. What changes about women's expectation? Okay? And then what's the same? What is the same about women? That even though they're being told to change, that they're now soldiers, and that they're supposed to have short haircuts and their hair gets cut short. At the same time, what's a continuity? Women are still caring for their hair at night. They're using curlers. They're being very ingenious. They're using pine cones to curl them. They're out to curl their hair. They're out in the middle of nowhere in battle, and they want to make sure that they still have that feeling of humanity, that they're still women among the death and the inhumanity of warfare. And so in your answer, you're going to give what is a change in the expectation of women based on this excerpt, and what is a continuity, what stays the same. Okay, guys, so that's what you'll be doing that's due on Friday, and good luck with it. I hope this video helps, and I miss you so much, and I'm thinking of you, and it's good to see your responses here. If you have any questions, please just let me know, and you can do that through email or on Google Classroom. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.